Book 1, Chapter 3 of Calvin's Institutes, the knowledge of God naturally implanted in the human mind. This is essentially the doctrine we get from Romans chapter 1 through 2. Everybody knows that God exists. That is, that he with power created and made the world. Calvin opens by saying, even among the heathen, that is the most barbarous nation, a race of brutes, there's still no nation that we know of that does not have the conviction that God exists. And this is an argument C.S. Lewis would pick up on in Mere Christianity. I don't know if he got it from Calvin or not. He doesn't need to get it from Calvin. It's in Romans 1 and 2. But Calvin gives this illustration that essentially this knowledge of God, that there is a God, he exists, he created all things, he's powerful, almighty, and he, in some sense, naturally, you can ascertain wants your obedience and dedication. It's a thought that owns the mind of man. He might try to forget it. It ain't going nowhere. It's as though man is tattooed or branded with this knowledge, and he can't get over seeing it. It's there. It's a part of his nature. It's a part of who he is. And Calvin illustrates that even idolatry, even man's tendency to make idols for himself, is a testament that the knowledge of God is naturally implanted in the human mind, in the human spirit and condition, because men who normally don't like authority, don't rule over me. We don't even like speed limits and stop signs. All men who naturally despise and buck against any kind of authoritarian system, that same man will, because the impulse to worship something is so strong, will take a log and make a little monkey man out of it and bow down and worship that. That's how strong this impulse is. In the second part of this chapter 3, Calvin essentially is anti-communist before it was cool. That these guys that make arguments that religion is essentially an opiate of the masses, it is a mere contrivance of men in power to keep people in check. Now he acknowledges, yes, men have introduced various fictions or fears into the natural state of religion to exercise control. Yes, that's definitely true, but you can see that even in the character of tyrants, and he gives the example of Caligula, even in the character of tyrants who on earth reign as though they are many gods, are nonetheless still terrified of God. That even as Caligula is a historical figure who shows one of the greatest levels of contempt and disregard for this natural knowledge of God, when he received an omen from his priest that God had intended bad things for him, he shook like a leaf, and the guy couldn't sleep. Why? Because for him, religion was not just a mere tool, instrumentally, that he was going to use to control people. He, whether he liked it or not, was shaking like a leaf under this pagan omen that said bad things are coming for Rome. So even the wicked themselves are an example. Calvin says that this knowledge of God still exists, lingers on in the mind of man. So the world, though, part 3 of this chapter, he would say so that knowledge is implanted. It's not going anywhere, but nonetheless, it hasn't stopped the world and the people in the world from trying to essentially shake off this knowledge. And yet, what is the end result that even philosophers like Plato and Plutarch would get at? That if you remove the worship of the true God, everything always gets worse. If you remove worship, not even true Christian worship, we would say, if you remove that worship, everything always gets worse. If you elevate worship, even in what would be a pure naturalistic sense, everything always gets better. And Calvin really doesn't disagree much with the philosophers at this point in terms of their basic logic and reasoning. Why is that the case? That if you remove worship, everything gets worse? Because, well, let's eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Everybody devolves to the lowest common denominator when there is no fear of God anymore. They do as they please. However, when worship is elevated, men begin to aspire to immortality naturally. Why? Because that knowledge of God is still implanted in them. They have some sense of God as creator and the powerful maker and sustainer of things. Well, thank you for listening. I hope that was a benefit to you.